Hey everyone, this is Elias from RefMatch Media. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2021 Mercedes A220 4MATIC. Now, I know this is an entry-level Mercedes model, but don't be fooled by this little guy. There's actually some really higher-end model options that you can get in this. Well, let's get started. We get to the front and we take a look at the nice Mercedes LED headlights. I love the design. These look actually really good. I do like the little boomerang kind of light that we have there for the daytime running, and it doubles as your turn signal light. So nice little touch there. We come over here to the grille area, and yeah, we can see that this grille is going to show that it is a little bit more entry level. So the other Mercedes that we've driven, we do have kind of like that metallic or chromed out or polished finish to it on the edges of these little, I guess, hexagons. So the shape that it is, but this one is just the black plastic. So it is leaving a little bit more to be desired, and it is showing it is a little bit of an entry-level model. We do have the big Mercedes logo here. We can opt out for an illuminated one. Would I? Yeah, I think I would, just because it's cool. I mean, it's just one of those gimmicky things. Yes, I know, but it will set you apart. It will definitely bring more light to this front grille that I think needs a little bit more work. And at the bottom, again, we have more of the, it does look like an inexpensive plastic. It does have some openings, which is nice to get some cool air in there because it is gonna need it. Now we take a look at the just kind of overall shape. I feel like this could have helped out a little bit to make this a little bit tall, so it doesn't look like it's just kind of melting down to this smaller area here. But the denim blue metallic that this has is a nice touch. It is a nice blue color to it. It doesn't scream, so it's not a very loud color, so don't expect for it to be eye-catching. But overall, it could do some work, but it's a fairly decent design. Let's take a look at what's under the hood and see what we got there. We take a look under the hood and we can see that we have the 2.0 liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Now this does crank out 188 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. With this little guy, the power wasn't 100% there. I guess it's because it is connected to the 7-speed automatic and going through the 4MATIC system. It's a lot for it to travel through. Now let's start at the engine. The power, again, wasn't 100% there. It did fall short on the higher RPMs. Mid-range was pretty good, so the turbocharge had already spooled up and was giving us the power, but it did fall flat at about 4,500 RPM. It did kind of die out till its red line at 6,500. So just be aware of that. The eco mode is pretty aggressive as well, in the sense that you floor it and it's gonna want to keep you in an eco mode. And we're talking like really, literally flooring it all the way, even clicking that little button you sometimes feel on some accelerator pedals. But yeah, it definitely wanted to keep you there. The gas mileage for this was pretty good. I was able to get about 35 miles to the gallon. But overall, yeah, I feel like, I guess I'm just spoiled by the AMG what was it? Inspired, I forget the term that the GLB had, or the GLA, sorry, because it had the next AMG level. If you guys can watch that video, you'll see what I mean. But it definitely needs a little bit more pep. I understand this is an entry level, but the price might not be so entry level. Yeah, I would say just a little bit more power, or maybe tune it a little bit so that it doesn't die out on the top end. Now the transmission was fine, the shifts were really smooth, no issues there, and the 4MATIC really delivered the power to the wheels. We didn't really push it to the limit. You know, it's been really hot here in Texas, and we don't have any rainy conditions to really put the 4MATIC to the test, but it did, you know, everything did a okay job. It was good. It was good. It wasn't great. Well, let's take a look at what we have in the wheel and tire package and go from there. We take a look at the wheel and tire package. We do have an 18-inch wheel, and we do have it wrapped in Bridgestone's 225 45 tires on this, and it's a simple design. I think this is, if you're planning on getting aftermarket wheels, go with the basic model, and you know, just go ahead and upgrade this. But from what this was great. The road noise was almost non-existent. The size is okay. I probably wouldn't change anything. The grip was adequate. The braking power was great. So overall, it was definitely a great package to have. But yeah, it's just basic. It wasn't anything really exciting. Let's take a look at what we have on the side and see how this looks. We get to the side and we can see it's a fairly compact sedan. Another thing I noticed, it's actually a really low sedan as well. I was surprised by, again, I'm not the tallest of guys, and I was surprised I'm able to see the top of the vehicle. So expect that. It is gonna be a little bit on the lower side. A couple of things, we can see the front design. You can tell a little bit more of what I was mentioning, but it looked like it kind of melts down, and it almost looks like it has a pig nose kind of in the front from this aspect. Again, we have the wheels, very simple. I would probably go aftermarket, or if you can option it out with those like the stovetop burners that I mentioned from the E-Class. Those were amazing. Those were awesome. But I don't think you can. It gives you a different variation, but those were beautiful Mercedes wheels. These are, hey, we need things that are round and to put, you know, that can turn. That's how I feel these 5-wheel spokes wheels are. But so we have that. Now, a couple of things with this is the windows. So the windows, because of this line here, are actually really small. It is a little tough to see out of these windows. You do have some blind spots with this vehicle. This one does have the notice for blind spot monitoring, so to speak, and you're going to need it because these mirrors are actually really small as well. And the whole week that I've had this, I haven't been able to find my sweet spot to position them. It's just, it was something weird. I feel like it was moving or something, but they are a little bit on the small side. And also, again, like I mentioned, the window, not just the front, but also the back. My wife noticed it as well. So it does feel a little bit smaller on that. But overall, I mean, it's a nice shape, but just be aware that you are going to have some sacrifices with that. When we come to the back, this is probably my favorite thing about this, is it's got this, like, I don't know, it's got this line here and this design. It just, something about this that's really nice. You do have the option for AMG styling stuff. This one unfortunately doesn't have it. I think the trunk definitely needs that. It looks great wingless, but nice little AMG touch would be nice. Now this one does have their keyless go option, which means keys in your pocket, you're able to go ahead and grab the handle and open it up. Let's take a look if we don't have to do some weird things like push a button or anything like we do in other ones. So here's the test. So my hand is on it, I heard it unlock, and that means I can open it up without having to push a button to unlock it and then open it up. So it just works with the feel. Now I close it, and all 4 handles actually have the little indentation in order for you to lock it, which is great. It's such an underrated option, but you'd be surprised when you have kids and you take the kid out from the back seat and you need to lock. And if you're on the passenger side, you don't have to run over here or grab, you know, for the key fob. If, you know, you have a kid that is wanting to just run and you're having to just grab him and lock the car at the same time. So having this on all the door handles is a nice little touch. So keyless go, you definitely want to turn that on. Well, let's take a look at what we have in the back and see what that looks like. We get to the back, and like I said, this is probably my favorite part about this. So we do have these kind of bulbing, like rounded off edges here, which look great. We have LED taillights, and we have this little guy here. Now, it is reminiscent of the E46, I believe that's the correct BMW 3 Series. So it does have that kind of like built-in mini lip, and it has this little line that does kind of remind you of that BMW design. It's a good thing. I know, but it's definitely a great design for this. And again, we have the A220 badge, we have the 4MATIC badge, because this is, after all, the 4MATIC version, and it's great. I mean, and we'll take a look at the key fob, which is, again, my favorite. And when we take a look at this, there's not many options. So again, with Mercedes, we just have the lock, unlock, panic, and the trunk button. We don't have auto start, we don't have remote start, but that does come with the Mercedes ME or Me option. Yeah, I just wish it could be done on the remote, because yeah, it's a subscription thing and Mercedes is making more money. I understand that, but again, we're dealing with, you know, what if I need to let someone borrow my car? Not likely, but you know, it's nice to have it on the remote. Or what if I don't want to take my phone, or I leave it accidentally? You know, it's nice to just have it on the key fob. Okay, so we take a look at the bottom here though. We have the exhaust tips. Yes, it's a stretch of a word. Now, I will literally put my clean hand and see if, nope, it stops. So it stops, and yeah, I don't have any exhaust grime or anything on my hand, because there is no exhaust opening. Literally, it is a blocked off panel. So yeah, that's a big shame, because I think the design is nice, but at least have it open. Even if you give me the exhaust pipe itself just kind of shoved in there, just something, but don't give me just literally a blocked off panel. Yeah, so that's a big loss for this Mercedes. Now, when I go ahead and I pop open the trunk, there is a lot of space in here. I was surprised. I guess it's like, you know, we lost a lot in that roof line with little openings, but this opening is massive. That's what I like. This is one of the things why SUVs are kind of better. But hatchbacks, let's just say hatchbacks. I love hatchbacks because you do have a big opening to put big items, and typically with sedans, this guy stops it, but this is a fairly big opening, and there's a lot of depth in this. There's a lot of space. There's even little openings on the sides. What I do love about this is, even though it is the 4MATIC option, it is sunken down a little bit. I would say about half a foot down, which is good. It's good, because that way it does stop things from falling out when you do open it, which you'd be surprised how many cars, even the ones that are not rear wheel drive or 4-wheel drive or have a differential in the back, which typically that cranks up the trunk floor. This one doesn't. It's actually fairly sunken in, which is good, again, to have enough space. And that's it for the back. Well, let's go inside and go for a ride. We get into the Mercedes A220, and this is what I was talking about, where it's a entry-level model, but it has kind of top-of-the-line features or options. What I mean by that is you get inside and it looks like a Mercedes. It looks like every Mercedes in their lineup. which is great. And again, like I mentioned before, maybe not so great. What I mean by that is you don't have to go spending a ton of money in order to get their design language. It's really copy and paste and then just resize according to whichever model this is in. But let's get started. So we take a look at the door, and there's a little bit of a different design cue on the door. We have my favorite, which is the seat adjustments. The seat adjustments, the fact that you have them on the door is brilliant. Again, I've always mentioned that it's so much easier to adjust your seat on the door than it is having to fiddle it around your actual chair. So that's great. We have 3 memory settings here, and we have heated seats. We'll get to that soon. Only heated seats. So we get to that, and then the door handle has this kind of cool like loop for the area where you grab. It's nice. I like it. It's a different design cue than the other ones. And yeah, we have that for the door. We also have this with the aluminum, brushed aluminum kind of trim look to it. We get to the seats, and this is where whatever this option is, it's actually just the heated seats, is maybe not the best for Texas heat. Every single day I've had this vehicle, we've hit 100 degrees. Yes. and it's not even, I think today may be day 1 of summer, but it's just really, really bad with the heat. And so this is only the heated seat, but if you're gonna be in this kind of climate, definitely get the heated and cooled seats. And with this combination, this option, this design of the seat is not really the most comfortable. We did that trip, that about 300-mile round trip, and I was not the most comfortable, even with the seat kinetics, which we'll get into what that is. But it just wasn't there. It didn't feel like other Mercedes seats that I've been in, and you just kind of want to just relax and enjoy the ride. So what seat kinetics is basically a really great thing with Mercedes vehicles, is that it lets you turn it on and it basically adjusts the seat. It adjusts the back, it adjusts the sides, and it really keeps you awake, keeps you refreshed, keeps you alert for those long trips. I had it on and it just wasn't enough for these seats. So definitely don't go with these. Pay the premium, you will thank me later. Pay for the premium seats, the cooled seats if you're in very hot temperatures, because yeah, my back was constantly hot from getting out of the car, then coming back into it, and we're talking about 15 minutes at most, and the car was already scorching hot. So yeah, definitely want to get the higher end seats. We get to the steering wheel, and yeah, this is the standard steering wheel. It is actually really good. I was surprised at how good this wheel was. And I mean that by the shape. Usually I'm a sucker for a flat bottom. Flat sides is just, oh my God, the perfect thing ever. But with this just being a simple round wheel, it did great. I loved the feel of it. The leather wrapping on this is amazing. It felt great. Ergonomically, my hands were really good place. And we have the Mercedes buttons that we've dealt with before. Left side is your cruise control stuff, and we have the option that it looks like what someone described as like a BlackBerry little joystick. I'm not sure, I never owned a BlackBerry, but yeah, apparently the BlackBerries had that little thing, and that is to control your gauge cluster. So your gauge cluster, again, this is when we're talking about these premium options that these other high-end models have that you get with this entry-level model. You would think maybe, okay, maybe they're gonna put analog gauges on this and not put the digital screen like they do with their other models. With this having that screen as the gauge cluster, it makes it easy to customize. And customize is the big word with this, because there's so many options to this. I've driven Mercedes vehicles now, you know, the loaners for about, I've had about 5 of them, and you're still finding little things here and there, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. Good thing is you have a lot of options. Bad thing, you have a lot of options to go through. But with my setup, because we were on a road trip, I set my speedometer on the left. I had my tire pressure in the middle, and it also has tire temperature, which is great. Nice option to have as well. Maybe for the track. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Just make sure everything is running nice and cool. And on the right side, I did have my miles per gallon. Yeah, my fuel economy. So that's what I had for the road trip. Right now I have the tach because it looks cool, and yeah, everyone wants to see that, those little RPMs go up. So we have that set up, but there are a ton of different things. And yeah, you can control it all with the steering wheel. You change it from the left side. Now we have the cruise control. I don't know. I don't know if this has adaptive cruise control, but let's just say it got a little too close to for my comfort, and I did have to back off and turn it off, and just said, you know what, I'll stop using it and just use my right foot. So I would have to research. It was a little too dangerous for me, or a little too scary for me to, yeah, because the vehicle in front of me was getting a little close, and I didn't feel the car wanting to slow down. So yeah, just be aware of that. Now on the right side, we have your typical controls for radio. You know, we have the phone as well, and my favorite little volume wheel here. The only thing I've always said this lacks is the change track option on the wheel itself. So yeah, it could do a little bit better. You do have to do a little bit of tricks to move the joystick and focus the BlackBerry little wheel and focus the option on the next track, so that then you can press it down. Okay, and we also have these paddle shifters. The paddle shifters were great. I mean, they're pretty placed. They're well placed. I didn't use them much because, yeah, I don't know. We'll get to that soon. But we come back here behind the steering wheel, and we have the column shifter. This is one of the things that I didn't really like in the GLB. The GLA, I kind of got used to, but I'm back on this, and I'm not liking it again. So the reason why is we were on the highway, and the person in front decided to wash their windshield, and a ton of water. It seemed like it missed their windshield and just hit ours. A ton of water came onto our windshield, and yeah, my personal car has it on the right to change your to turn on your windshield wipers, and I put it in neutral. Yes, on the highway I put it in neutral, and it let me put it in neutral on the highway. And I was doing about, God bless Texas, 70 miles an hour speed limits. That's how much I was doing. So I was a little kind of confused when I heard the engine just kind of rev. And I was like wondering what was going on. I looked down. Yes, I accidentally put it there. The windshield wipers are actually on the left, and it's putting a lot of things in one stick. So yeah, that's probably one of my things where I'm like back to maybe not loving this guy again. We come over to the infotainment center here, and this is the optional 10-inch screen. You definitely want to get it. Anything smaller than this is a little lacking, especially when we have this massive thing. And the other thing with this is it's still again, a big thing that I've always mentioned with these Mercedes and having this screen, especially with the smaller one. But the problem with this is my steering wheel. My steering wheel is at an angle where I cannot see anything from here and to the left. So I've mentioned this in my other Mercedes videos, but it still is true. Just in case you haven't watched those, welcome to the channel. and it does have that little thing where it blocks a majority of the screen. So it blocks a good amount. So from basically I can see the edge of the CarPlay and to the right. Anything to the left, I cannot see. So yeah, that's a big thing. And it's great. I mean, the screen is great. It responds really well to touch as well. So there's really no issues. There's tons of different things on here. Like I said, and I'll just kind of flip through them like that. There's a ton of options. It is gonna take a bit to learn this. So if you are someone that is not good with technology, be aware, or just, you know, stay in your lane, so to speak, and focus on just the things you want to use, because it can have an overwhelming amount of things. Like I said, this has been about 5 weeks equivalent of owning a Mercedes, and I'm pretty good with, I'm actually really good with technology, and I'm still finding out some things. So just be aware of that. But other than that, it's really a great thing to have. It's a clear screen. It really does the job. And yeah, it looks amazing too. Now, another thing with the entertainment system, the speakers on this were great. We do have the optional system that you can option it out with, but honestly, you could save your money there. Spend it somewhere else. Spend it, you know, I don't know, somewhere else, but you don't, I don't think you needed it. And me being an audio guy, you know, making sure that my songs are played at an 11, this was actually a really good bass system. If you have the money, yeah, go ahead and splurge and get the higher end system. One of the things that this Mercedes has is the augmented navigation system. It's actually pretty good. So what will happen is when you go to a stop, it will show you the camera. So there is a little camera just right above there that will actually give you the front view, and you'll typically see like different road signs, and it'll give you different like basically where to turn with the navigation. We used it and it was pretty good for the majority of the time. For about a little area, and when we were heading to the Dallas area where there was just a lot of highways just kind of overlapping each other, it was a little tough for it to basically tell me where to go, because it was a bunch of like it was basically a fork in the road on the highway, so to speak, where you have over here, and then it was just really confused with our location. So I ended up going the wrong way first, and second, I did have to stop using it because I needed to make sure that we didn't catch the wrong highway. And believe it or not, Apple Maps was pretty reliable with the CarPlay, so that's what I ended up using. We come down here, and again, some design cues. We have the AC vents. They just look great. Love the brushed aluminum look to these things, and just German and industrial design look to it. Then we come down to the AC controls, and they're great. I mean, they're simple, to the point. The only thing again is that when I go up and down, I cannot see my temperature because it's dual climate zones, and I have to kind of constantly be looking one side or the other, or I just sync them up for a bit, annoy my wife because it's too cold for her, and change mine, see it on that side, and we're set. So yeah, but other than that, it's great. It works very simple, no issues there. We come down here to this opening, and it's a big opening for you to put phones, keys, whatever you want. I believe that can also be optioned out with a wireless charger. Mercedes has been hit or miss with wireless chargers. GLB was not the best. It was just such a small contact patch where you had to place your phone, and it slid a lot. So it wasn't the stickiest of surfaces to avoid that from slipping, and this is without case and with a case that lets you actually charge, and that had some grippy material. So yeah, there's some downsides to that. And we come over here to the cup holders, and the cup holders are great. You know, we were able to, as you can see, I made a Starbucks run. I'll post a picture. I made a Starbucks run. It was just one of those things where I was like, I just need some sugar. And I got the biggest Texas size cup. Well, Starbucks, just a venti cup. But you can see they definitely can hold big cups. And I wasn't worried about it spilling over because they're fairly deep. So it can really hold a good amount of the cup. We also have the USB-C connection. Yes, this is only a USB-C connection vehicle. So be aware that if you have USB-A connections, you'll have to go ahead and get cables. They do give you a cable, but I believe they charge you $25. That's at least what it was in the E-Class that we reviewed. But yeah, it worked great. You can see my cable is here. No wireless Apple CarPlay yet, which would be nice to see in upcoming models because yeah, the cable got a little bit out of hand. I know I got probably the longest cable in the world, but it would be nice so that I don't have to, you know, fiddle it with basically the cup holders here. We get down here to the input device, or that little trackpad that the Mercedes have, and I like it. I've gotten used to it. I know how it responds. It's been really good. It's like the other ones have. It's exactly the same model. So it's not like some vehicles that they'll have the same option or same devices, but you feel like they cheaped out on it because it's an entry-level model. But no, this is the exact same thing with this than it was on the $100,000, you know, GLE that I drove. I think it was like $130,000 one. So yeah, that's what's great about this little car. And again, like I mentioned, the screen as well. You know, this is all on the higher end models, so it's not like they really cheaped out, at least in the interior. But you know, there's definitely some high end materials in this, which is great. Again, the trackpad little situation is really great. We have some buttons here, and we have the dynamic, so it lets me switch between sport, comfort, and eco. On there we have the favorites, we have, you know, just all these little things. There are some panels missing. These are usually more for the higher performance models, to switch over your your modes here, for suspension, I believe, and exhaust. It depends on the model you have, but yeah, it is definitely have a little blank plate here. And then we have the other quick buttons to your navigation, media, and your telephone. So yeah, we have those there. Then my next favorite thing is this guy. So this guy is so ergonomically placed. It's amazing. I love it. So it's basically just kind of where you can rest your hand, your palm on there, or when you're using the trackpad, your actual palm. But it's really great. I love this little thing. Such a small detail, but it makes this experience with the trackpad just incredible. It really makes a huge difference. We get back here a little bit more, and we have our little storage compartment. So there's a good amount of space in here. Don't expect to shove big items in here, but it's got its space. It's nice. I like also that it splits open like this, so you don't have to kind of, you know, pull one of those to open it up to the back. So it's a nice little design in there. Then we get to the back, and we can see my kid's seat is there. He was comfortable, no complaints. Actually, he did have one complaint, which we'll get to soon, but it was the seat. So the seating area is a little bit on the tighter side because he was, you know, if he tried to rearrange, he accidentally kicked my wife's the seat in the back. So yeah, it's not the biggest, but it's big enough. So I fit back there with no problem. Granted, I'm not the tallest of guys, but definitely had no issues. And his complaint was, I wish it had sunshades. Yes, yeah, because the sun was kind of getting in his face. So he wished it had just little sunshades. Stuff you can buy on Amazon. But you know, kid's perspective, honest review. That was his gripe, so to speak. Another one of his favorite things were the lights. So this has like the ambient lighting that, again, you see on these higher end models as well. And you can choose a ton of different colors. His favorite was ocean blue, which is what I'm running right now. It may be a little difficult to see because it's very bright, but yeah, it really is a nice little touch, especially at night when you can change the brightness. Obviously, you don't want to have something blaring at night, but it's nice and subtle, so it's a nice little thing. And this has the big panoramic sunroof, which we kept closed the whole time because it was hot. It was really hot. But the little sunshade, we do have it open now because obviously we have the camera back there, but with the sunshade, it was really good at making sure that we weren't feeling the heat from above, which was good. Loved it. Usually those little, because it's like a cloth, you could see through it, and usually I'm not a big fan of those because they're not really good at blocking out the heat, but this did an awesome job. We get to the trunk area and man, there is a lot of space. I was surprised there was a lot of space for this little sedan. Usually, especially with that kind of swooping trunk, it was fine. We had a big luggage for our weekend, and we definitely had, enough space to add more luggage. So it was definitely a good sized trunk. Now, performance. Let's do a couple of things. We'll switch over to the performance page, so to speak, that this has. It doesn't have the track pack option like we do with the other models. So let's talk numbers. We have a 2.0 four-cylinder turbocharged engine. We're looking at 188 horsepower and 221, I believe, pound-feet of torque. That is going through the 7-speed automatic, or their DCT, which is kind of like their more manual automatic, so to speak. And it is going through the 4MATIC system. So with this, the power doesn't really feel like a lot because it kind of isn't. Again, this is an entry level Mercedes. Yeah, you don't want to kill the higher end models by throwing in some insane engine in this, but the 4-cylinder does a good job for everyday driving sometimes. So what I mean by that is because of our trip, I wanted to save as much gas as possible, and I did have it in eco mode. So you can switch it into the eco mode, but it is a really strict system. What I mean by that is I had to pass someone, on an on-ramp, going onto an on-ramp, and I accelerate all the way, and it was not responding, and realizing that I could care less about being in eco mode at that time and switch it over to a more performance result, or switch it to temporarily sport. So that was a little nerve-wracking because I was needing to get on the highway, and I was merging onto the highway, and the car just wasn't going, and I couldn't brake to let the car in front because I had a car behind me. So it was kind of, yeah. So I did even, I literally floored it and even felt the little click that you get in some vehicles, and it just didn't realize, it didn't wake up. So just be aware that if you're in a passing situation, you will need to switch it from eco to something else, maybe comfort or straight into sport. So yeah, just be aware of that. But when you get to sport, it's actually pretty responsive, but you're not gonna get the mileage that you would normally. So I was able to get about 34 and a half to almost 35 miles to the gallon on our 300-mile trip. Now, 90% of that was highway, so that aligns with their highway measure. So yeah, if you're in sport mode, you're not gonna get that. You're really not gonna get that because you're gonna wanna step on it. And with the power band on this, it definitely feels like you know, we get a good boost coming in at about 2,000 to about 4,000. But once you get to about 4,500 to its 6.5 red line, it's choking. It really, you can feel the torque just fall flat, just dip incredibly. So yeah, the performance, don't expect it from this, really. But at least what I'm used to in Mercedes performance. Granted, I have been spoiled with AMG models, you know, insane power delivery on those, 500 horsepower, but yeah, but I mean, even with the GLA that I test drove, granted it wasn't AMG, it did really have some pep to it, and the GLB did have some pep to it as well. And it's not saying that you can't in this, just don't expect a lot from it. But you're not going to be paying a lot for it, which is the great thing. And relative, it's still a Mercedes, but with the steering wheel feel, it definitely was good. Even in the sport mode though, the sport mode doesn't have the typical heavier setting that I like. I do like a really heavy steering wheel, and the AMG models do a really good job at that. And this does feel a little bit on the softer side. And other than that though, yeah, it's really, really good at handling turns. I was surprised at this. It felt so smooth. We ran across some really bad roads, and the suspension just handled them really well. Weird thing is, I kind of liked it more in sport mode. I don't know if this has a different dampening system when in sport, but it definitely felt a lot more together than in comfort. Now, who is this for? This is for a pretty good sized audience, or market. What I mean by that is, it is an entry level Mercedes. We have some higher end finishes, which is nice. So I would say if you're looking for something not too big, you don't want an SUV, and you got a little bit of cash, you got a little bit of money to go a little bit extra over, you know, a standard non-luxury kind of sedan. This, I would say this checks the box, because you get a lot for that money, even though it is relatively a lot of money for this. But it's definitely great. You know, if you're a small family, so I would say small, because it can get a little bit cramped in here. If you're, you know, maybe couple or single, this is a nice little car to have. Couple of things though, make sure you option out the better seats. Make sure you get cooled seats or vented seats. If you're in hot climate, you will need that. And save some money on the sound system, because I think this is plenty. But if you got it, that would be the next option to get. But overall, this makes for a pretty good sedan. I was surprised by it. Granted, I was let down in some areas, but in others, I was still amazed. Still amazed that, you know, even at the entry level, and again, I've probably repeated that word a million times, you can get something this good. It's a good overall package. It's not exceptional in anything, but it really is good at everything. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. I've had a good time with this. Yeah, I have. And remember to find the right gear, because this one's got 7, and they shift pretty good on their own because it's automatic. Well, remember guys, again, find the right gear. See ya.